Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 20 of You Are More with Emily Cave Boy. I am so excited to have one of my widow sisters on the episode today. For those that follow Widowhood or us widows on social media, she is the creator of Vids for Wids, which is just an amazing Instagram account that describes widowhood to a T. So excited to have Leslie on, talk about her journey from widowhood to finding love again, and now actually releasing her new book soon. So, welcome Leslie to the show.
Black tank party.
I know. I am so excited to have you on in our little, we didn't even plan this.
We're just both in mourning, eternal mourning, okay?
Black. Such a widow. Honestly,
Such a cliche.
I do feel like I wear a lot of black though. I don't know if that's like,
It's not our fault that black also happens to be flattering. Okay,
yeah,
it's not our fault. It doesn't mean that we're sad that day, okay?
exactly. I feel like I'm like drawn to black.
I wonder why.
I wonder why.
We're all drawn.
But speaking about why, I remember the first time I came across your story. One of me and Colby's Hillsong Boston friends, sent me your post, and unfortunately, we're both a part of this widow sisterhood club that no one wants to be in, but at the same time, once you're in it, it's super tight knit and you're so grateful for each other. And I remember reading, it was shortly after Ryan's 1 year mark, because Ryan passed away 1 year before Colby. And I remember reading it and being like, okay, I didn't even know you, but I'm like, if she can get through this, if she can get to the 1 year mark, like, I can too. And I think, that's the power of social media and being authentic and sharing journeys. But take us back to how you met Ryan, your whole story, and kind of what led up to that 1 year mark post.
Yeah, of course. Do you ever feel like when you're about to tell your story again, you're like kind of afraid that
Yeah.
will I seem like a sociopath if I'm not bawling my eyes out? Because
Yeah.
I've told it so many times.
You're like,
Doesn't if I don't cry, doesn't mean I'm not very sad. But yeah, I met Ryan at work actually. We were both like quirky creatives. We worked at a children's media company and we were actually the on-screen talent. We had to like dress up as elves and mad scientists. It was a really weird job. But we basically met at work
love
and
it.
we were both applying for the same job. It was like a full-time job, but they loved us both. They were like, "You're perfect for the job, but we only can pay for one full-time job, so we're going to split the job in two." So I met him on a training day and we both got less pay, but we're like, we shared one full-time job. And then soon we shared an entire life. So pretty crazy. We ended up getting together a couple years later after I kind of rejected him a few times. That's a long, complicated story. But then we kind of had this bond of being coworkers first and being like this creative force. And it just sort of happened where it was like Ryan and Leslie does this, Ryan and Leslie will do that. We became like a one, Ryan and Leslie, before we ever got married. And then when we got married, we decided to start our own production company together, making commercial videos. And our lives were very much together, everything together. We ran our company together. We also were the kids' church pastors at our church together. So it
I
was
wish you were my kids' church pastor growing up. I would be like, you are so cool.
yeah, I did some great impressions of like Moses. I often had a beard on. We were weird. We got weird together, but what was strange is that like I can't think of many parts of my life except for maybe the occasional like girls' night that was separate from Ryan. Um and so we went on vacation. Basically, it was spring break, and we were going to take all the kids with my sister's family to Disneyland for 3 full days and like do the full Disney thing and stay in the park. And then we were going to go to Palm Springs after to kind of get the vacation from the vacation and
Yeah,
actually
seriously.
relax by
As
the
a parent,
pool.
you're like
Yeah,
aftermath
yeah.
vacation.
not super relaxing. Anyway, so we're by the pool, and we're finally relaxing. We got to Palm Springs. I put my baby Rory down for a nap. We had two kids at the time. So Wit was 3.5, our oldest son, and Rory was 1.5. Well, he was more like 14 months. And we put him down for a nap. I'm sitting by the pool. I'm reading. I think I was actually reading the Bible and like journaling about my life. And then Ryan comes out and says, Leslie, something's wrong. And from that moment on, things happened very quickly. But he basically had an aneurysm and a stroke, and he was only 34 years old. So, I mean, the way that I tell like the fast version is that like he dropped dead on vacation. It wasn't like that where he was gone by the pool. It was, the ER, they came, but then by the time he was at the hospital, he was on life support, and we were having to decide, when to take him off because his body basically wasn't working. His brain no longer was functioning. Um, and so we flew in a bunch of family, and it was just the longest 48 hours of my life, which I know that you know that experience, how time moves so strangely in those moments. But yeah, we went to Palm Springs together, and then I flew back to Vancouver, Washington as a widow and as a single mom to two kids. And it took a while for my brain to catch up with what happened. But yeah, worst day of my life. April. It was actually April 1st. It was April Fool's Day, 2019,
You're like,
which
this isn't a funny joke.
yeah, which was hard delivering
Yeah.
news to people because Ryan was a very funny guy. And so a lot of friends were like, so it
No.
was cruel.
Yeah.
So yeah, whenever I see April Fool's Day jokes now, I'm like, oh,
It's a
maybe we
trigger.
can we cancel that
Yeah,
holiday?
cancel that holiday. Colby got sick April 7th and then passed away April 11th. And I remember it being over Easter. Um, and now just like that, like April Fools or like Easter just feels different now
He's
when something like that happens. But as you were talking, I feel like I could relate in some ways of the suddenness and just your whole life. You think you, it's so funny. You think you plan your whole life. You guys had kids, started your own company together, and then a flip second, everything changes. And you never think it's going to be you. Like,
no,
you never think it's going to be you. And I think for me, I didn't even, when you're talking about flying home as a widow, that word to me didn't even register. Even older people when they lose their spouse or anything. I knew like when my grandfather passed away before my grandmother, I never clued in like, oh, my grandmother's a widow. Like you don't think of that. And then all of a sudden you're slapped with this label is so quickly, like being like Ryan's widow or Colby's widow. And you're like, wait, what? Like what happened? So
yes,
yeah.
I remember that feeling because my sister was there. She lives down in California, and her friends drove down from LA to Palm Springs to like take care of the kids while we were at the hospital navigating stuff. And she was a widow. Her husband died by suicide 5 years before Ryan. And I had just always known her around,
Mm-hmm.
really good friends. And I was like, Jasmine, oh, that was such a sad thing that happened to her. But I never thought of her as a widow. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like the minute that Ryan died, I remember somebody saying, like, Jasmine is a young widow too. She's at the house. Like I was about to go talk to a young widow immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember being like, whoa, Jasmine and I are part of this club, and there's a word for it. I think I too, like, I never had thought about widowhood or the
Mm-hmm.
word widow, but when I first heard it, I like grabbed onto it because I was like, there is a word for what happened to
Mm-hmm.
me, and it's a word that I get to hold, for the rest of my life, that
Mm-hmm.
what happened to me matters, and this love
Mm-hmm.
story that I have, this connection with Ryan, it's gonna be part of my identity forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like pumped, I think, when pumped. But I was like excited to have
Yeah.
a word for it. So I feel like I latched onto it and I was like, yeah, I'm a widow and I want to talk to other widows and yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think in the beginning I was in denial. I feel like I could write it. It's interesting. I could write it, but I couldn't say the actual word for like a few weeks, maybe even like a few months. I like knew it and I was like, you, it helped me. That's how I was connected to you or other young widows through social media, and you kind of become a part of this like community, as you said, and you do really like latch on to like I literally remember laying in bed just scrolling your Instagram. Like, and this was like, I mean, like a year and a week after Ryan originally died. And I just remember feeling so validated. Like being like, I'm not crazy or I'm not all these emotions that I feel that you feel and probably well we do feel for the rest of our lives. Because yeah, widowhood isn't an easy journey by any means.
And I also was, I mean, I was scrolling people within the the next day.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's funny because, social media gets a lot of slack, like a lot of flack, and
Mhm.
people have their criticisms, and I do too. But I honestly feel like it was such
Blessing.
a blessing.
Mhm.
Yes, that's a perfect word for it. I was holding on to it as like a lifesaver when I was drowning. And
Mhm.
I'm so grateful for every widow that told their story on there. And
Mhm.
I'm glad that when you came to my account that I wasn't married yet because didn't you have a hard time going on like right away going on other widows accounts who had this new
Yes.
life? And now I'm so aware of that when I
I
post about my
know.
new life because I'm like, oh, I know that for me, I was like, I don't want to see that. I do
Yeah.
not want to see someone being happy again. I want to
And
see a
like you
widow
like
that's sad forever.
weirdly you kind of like I mean, I hate to say it now, but I remember like being like judgy, being like, "How
Yeah.
could you?"
How
like,
dare you?
and
I
now
would
I'm like,
never be.
"Ooh."
I was like, I will never have hope. Okay. I will
yeah,
never be happy. I'm going to be sad forever. And then I was like, oh, this is a little bit more complicated to live out.
yeah.
To be sad forever.
Seriously. Speaking about widowhood, though, and I know you do have as well a community of widows that you kind of lean on, and it's interesting to me. Although, I mean, for us, our stories are very similar, different aspects for sure, but it's interesting to me talking with sudden widows versus talking with terminal widows. And I've kind of talked about this a bit before. There is I don't want to say pros and cons, but like to each there kind of is if we're being truthful and yeah, like sudden obviously we don't have those conversations. We're completely blindsided, but I also can't imagine watching my spouse be terminal for months or weeks on end and watching them suffer. So yeah, I go back and forth, but I do remember, I don't know about you, but I remember like seeing terminal widows and I remember almost being jealous of them, if that makes
So
sense.
jealous.
Because I was like, you got those conversations. Like you had those conversations. Like you knew. And like now I feel so bad for that. But when you're in this immediate like
Yeah.
you're feeling everything. So yeah, I was curious if you had felt the same or kind of go back
Oh
and
man.
forth.
Yeah, that I at the beginning I was so jealous of cancer widows. And it was all about the conversation just like you said.
Mhm.
I was like if I could have just had like a minute with
Mhm.
Ryan,
Mhm.
30 seconds where
Mhm. Mhm.
he knew he was going to die and he could say something like I could say something to
Mhm.
him. He
Mhm.
could say something to me. Like we were in the middle of a fight. We were on a family vacation. We were on a budget. We were not super relaxed in Disneyland.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to be able to say, like, I'm sorry for what I said
Mhm.
and to get past that kind
Mhm.
of trivial fight and into the deep, like, this is how much you've meant to me. And that moment. And I wanted him to say, I long to hear his thoughts for the boys as they
Mm-hmm.
grew. For me, with how I navigate, I just wanted, I don't know, if his
Mm-hmm.
blessing on dating again,
Mm-hmm.
and how to navigate this whole thing because we're just like guessing what he
Mm-hmm.
might think. Um, but then as I've gotten to know widows who are cancer widows, I do think it's like a prolonged trauma where
Mm-hmm.
our 2 days. I don't know how many days. How long was Colby in the hospital? 4. Okay, so you have 4 days. I have 2 days of the hospital. And I'm like, wow, that feeling, what if that was stretched out for 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a lot of trauma to unwrap from that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that when someone dies after that, there's a sort of like a couple months of relief before they get
Mm-hmm.
into the grief zone,
Mm-hmm.
where I think, when you're a sudden death widow, there's no relief. Your brain is trying to catch up with what happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, it's more, shock and confusion. But yeah, I don't think there's no winner.
No.
There's no
There's no
everyone's
winner
losing.
in widowhood. Like there is not yeah, I think about that. But yeah, I feel better that you said that you were jealous of terminal widows too, because I
Yeah,
was like, how dare you get
I
like a
know.
conversation with them? Like,
I
and I
know.
remember being even jealous of people's spouses that died when they were 10 years out. Like, we didn't even make our first wedding anniversary. And I remember being like, screw you. Like, so angry at, and I struggled being around, older people. Like, I was like, you've lived this whole life, and Colby was 25. Like, yeah, I think jealousy and anger are very much in the first
Yeah.
little bit
I know my
of
parents were celebrating their like 40th anniversary at the time, I think, or somewhere around there, and I was just
like, I'm so happy for you.
I'm so happy for you guys. And it's my parents. Like
Yeah.
I'm happy that they're both still alive. But at the time, like it must be nice.
Yeah.
Must be nice. And I was, a little bit, yeah, angry or jealous of older widows, but now
Hmm.
I also have relationship with older widows, and I
Hmm.
think they're dealing with a whole different sort of identity
Totally.
loss because it's such a merging of, and it's gone on for so long that it is so deep in who they are. They are a half of a whole, and I think the longer you are married, the harder that is. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, again, no winners, no winners. But
No winners at all.
it just yeah,
No
no one
winners.
no one gets a trophy.
Yeah. Imagine.
I did actually make myself a trophy. Best in grieving, but it was for something else for the book that I'm working on. Yeah.
What? Well, wasn't there like, I thought it was you on it too. There was, thought we talked about this. There was a show that was reaching out to widows. Did you know
Oh, I
this?
don't know. I don't think that was me. Wait, what was it?
I swear they wanted to do like a widow kind of version,
Dating?
I think, of a dating show.
Did they reach
Uh-huh.
out to you, Ed?
Yeah. And I
Oh my God.
remember being like, well, that would be a big crap show of like which death is worse, and
Yeah.
yeah, I just remember being like, this is so weird. Um
Would the
yeah,
guy be a widower? Would
I don't
everybody?
know, I had one call and I shut it down pretty fast.
I want to watch this. I'm always like, I
I don't
want
think it came
somebody.
to like fruition. I don't think it ended up
Okay.
happening. But
I I do think that there should be more. I know people are trying to get some dating platforms going for widows. But I remember at the time, I don't know about you, when I was thinking about dating again,
mhm,
I was like, I only want a widower. I only want someone who shares this
uh-huh.
pain, and that we can just combine our sadness and be like, you're number two, I'm number two, and that's okay.
Yes,
But
yes.
it didn't play out that way for me.
Yes, I remember thinking that, or I'm like, I would go back and forth and be like, I want someone that was knew Colby so that they would like respect him or like understand this whole craziness of life or the type of person that he was. And then, I mean, Colin didn't really know too much about hockey before. anything. You'd
Yeah.
gone to a few games, but totally different. But yeah, I remember in the beginning being like, if this, and like having your like criteria, and that just got thrown right out the window.
Yeah. I wanted Jude Law from The Holiday. I wanted a widower with two daughters, and I'd come with my two cute little sons and we like make a little Brady Bunch. It didn't happen, okay? I'm not Cameron Diaz. It didn't happen.
It's
Um,
interesting though, there is a lot of videos or like movies on widowhood. And I feel like especially in the last like 2020 to like now, it just like blew up, I think, quite a
oh,
bit.
they're everywhere. I remember before Ryan died, there was a big thing where people were upset because in every Disney movie there's only one parent because the other parent died. And then I remember after Ryan died, I was like, yes, I was so excited for my
Thank
kids
you.
to be like, see, they don't
Yeah.
have a mom, they don't have a
Yeah.
dad. And then I was like, yes, more of that, please. But yeah, it's funny. You can time your watch by every Christmas movie pretty much
Hmm.
within the first 2 minutes, you find out that she's a widow or
It is
somebody died.
so funny you say that. I didn't even think about that. So like last week I was watching a movie, I think it's called like Two Hearts. I don't know if you've seen it. Anyways, and I like had it on. I like put it on because there was like two actors in it, and I was like, "Oh, this should be a good movie." I wasn't really paying attention. Colin was upstairs, and he comes down for like the last 30 minutes. We're like sitting on the couch together, and ironically, this person, the way that they do the narrative, it's like two lives
Oh, okay.
like back and forth, so you don't really know what's going on. And I swear in the last like 30 minutes I just knew. I'm like, it's going this way, it's
Yeah.
our, he's gonna die, he's gonna donate this, like I knew. And Colin's like looking and he was like, how do you know? I was like, I've lived this, I know it, I can feel it in my gut, I can sense it's happening. Like you're just so in tune to, I feel
Yes, you
like,
can smell it. Yeah, my
yeah.
husband, Solomon, is tired of my death radar. He's tired of all my death commentary. And how much I tell him he's gonna die. And he's like, I never thought about death so much about
I think Colin and
gonna
him could
die.
bond on that because
Yeah.
I'm like always like, what would you do if I die? Or like, da 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 da. Like it's like this like question. He's like, why do you bring this up? I'm like, because it could happen.
And you
And
need to get, yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? Like that's a stupid question. Like why
I know.
wouldn't I?
I'm always like, you're gonna be glad that we talked about this.
Yes.
Because like I was searching within the archives of my memories and everything for any conversation
Mm-hmm.
Ryan and I had about
Mm-hmm.
death. Anything because that we didn't get those last words. I didn't get a letter or a video or all of that. And so I was like, when did we talk about it? Now, Ryan had so much grief in his life. Both of his parents died um, too soon. I mean, his mom died when he was 19, his dad died when he was 25. And so we talked about death with his grief. And one or two times, the only thing that we talked about widowhood was that his dad was widowed and then he got remarried very shortly after. And I was always like, how could he do that to your mom? Like, get remarried so fast. And Ryan was not judgy about it at all. Ryan was like, that's what he needed to do. I'm so glad that he did. And that's all I had. That is what I took to be like, Ryan is giving a blessing to me to move forward, to date again, to love again, because his dad was like 2 months, 3 months maybe. And he was like, that's okay. I'm so glad my dad had somebody. I can't take care of him like my mom did.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to be with him like my mom. So that is all I had, and I just took it and I I moved forward, and I was like, thank
Interesting.
you for my blessing.
Yeah, it's so funny how, yeah, there's so many conversations like that. Like I remember we were watching Grays before and I was asking questions. So I kind of knew what he wanted or cremated or buried. So
Oh,
yeah, it's
okay.
funny how those things like you look back and you're like grasping for those conversations, but they
Yeah,
end up like helping you
I
so
know. So
much.
that's why our dudes now are very lucky. Okay,
Yeah.
they're getting all the conversations. They're getting all the information they
They're
need.
lucky for a lot of reasons, but that one too.
They're gonna be good. Yeah.
Um, Now, speaking of Ryan and the boys, I love that every birthday you have like a list of Ryan's favorite things and you do those with the boys because obviously Rory and Whit were younger when he passed away. Um, So I'm sure Wit has I some memories or
Yeah, memory's complicated. On memory, and then I'll talk about the birthday, but
hmm
I remember Wit was just such a fully formed little human when Ryan died.
hmm
He was talking a lot. He was 3, but he and Ryan had a relationship, and everybody was like, "Well, he's not gonna remember," and I was like, "No, no, no, Wit will remember." And I people were saying that to me, and that was really hard.
Yeah.
I couldn't wrap my head around that. But now, as he's grown up, they are pretty. His memories are pretty small. It's a small list,
hmm
and a lot of it, who knows if it actually happened. We just go with it.
Yeah.
I say yes, that did absolutely happen because that's all he has of his dad, and I want him to have as much as possible. And on their birthday, on Ryan's birthday, we basically treat it like a holiday in our house. Ryan was a man child. We met at this goofy children's media company,
Yeah.
and the reason that he got hired there is because he just was such a goofball. And he loved Legos, he loved arcades, he skateboarding. He was just a child. So it turns out that all of his favorite things are also like any elementary kid's favorite things.
You're like,
So they get to,
perfect.
yeah, they get to get a day out of school and just do all fun stuff the entire day. And I decided that it's not always natural to always I try to always be talking about Ryan
Mhm.
and bringing him up, but I do think we need these moments where we really intentionally to explain who this man is to them and explain how that he is in them. And because even though they have a great dad now, they Ryan will always be their dad. And it's genetics are weird because they are becoming little Ryans, and it's really showing me nature versus nurture, because my oldest son, it's like he will do things and I am so tripped up. And then my youngest son is a goofball like him. My oldest son has so many manner. It's crazy. So I just want them to know like who this
Yeah.
person is that's inside of them. And so it's just this big day where we write a crazy ambitious list of things that he loved, and we get through it. Wit has his little checklist paper, and throughout the day we're like checking off all of Ryan's favorite things. And we also found, and this is my favorite part of what we do, we found this list that Ryan made. He was probably like 12 or 13 in the box of stuff of things. It said things to do before death that he wrote. And it's like a very much a kid list. I think it has 50 items on it of
Yeah.
things that Ryan wanted to do before he died. So one of them was like have kids and get married. Check. He
Yeah.
did that. But some of them are really funny things. So we decided we'll do one item off that list every year. Like one,
Love that.
yeah, it was awesome. So one year was like dress up as a pirate in public. Another this year it was like go to an art museum and appreciate. It's just a very random list from a 14-year-old's brain. And some of them are going to be really hard, and I'm a little bit worried. There's like stage diving at a rock concert, and bungee jumping. I will not be bungee jumping, but I said maybe when the
Which one of your sons would bungee jump? I feel like Rory.
yeah. Yeah, Rory is bungee jumping every day of his life. The kid is trying to hurt himself. I'm like terrified. I'm like, let's do that one when you guys are older than 18, and
Yeah.
I will not be there for
I will
that.
be on the ground cheering you on.
Praying or like crying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to try to I love checking off that part of the list every year. But it's basically a big holiday and we have fun.
What is your favorite one you've done so far?
Of that from that list or from the
Uh,
whole, yeah,
just
I mean,
everything.
okay, one year we did. So Ryan got really into stand up for a minute. He was terrible. He was not good. But we would go to open mic nights and he would try to do stand up. And so one year we did a stand up night and we invited all of our friends' kids to participate. So it was like a kids stand up night, and we had like a brick wall displayed behind them and a mic, and all the kids told jokes to the adults, and that was such a highlight. It was so
Amazing.
fun. Yeah.
That is incredible. I love that. I absolutely love that. That's such a good idea. Um, Okay, talking about, we both kind of alluded to it, but talking about, because I remember we talked about this when I came to visit, was finding love again after love was ripped right from you, is quite a journey. So tell me about kind of when you knew you were ready to meeting your now husband. And I mean, that is a whole journey in itself. I know we talked about this. Like, we both hid them for a bit because we were so scared of judgment. So, yeah, navigating that all. What was your experience like?
It's so complicated. It's so complicated. Wow. I think that no one can really understand but another widow, because
Mm
from the outside, I don't even know. I think that's a hard part,
hmm. Mm
right? We're hiding them because we're trying to figure out how people are interpreting this. Are they like thinking that we're replacing the person,
hmm.
that we're moved on, we're no longer sad, we're good? It's so hard to get those thoughts out of your head when you're deciding to date again. Um, and you asked like when I was ready. I think I thought I was ready maybe before I was ready.
Mm hmm.
I was like, there's that initial feeling of just loneliness
Mm hmm.
when you are widowed. That's shockingly soon
Mm
after.
hmm. Mm hmm.
And I think that has a lot to do with just being used to having someone that you can reach out and touch, the
Mm
warm
hmm.
body in your bed,
Mm
someone to
hmm.
hang out with you at night. And um, it's not so much that you really want to fall in love again, is that you just want companionship again, like you just crave it.
Mm hmm.
I think that was really soon. And I felt really guilty about
Mm
that.
hmm.
And I felt like a betrayal to Ryan because I like didn't want I wanted like a male escort. I didn't want a husband, you know? I'm like, I want to be sad about my husband, but I would like a warm body next
Yeah.
to me and just like follow me around like the heat of a male.
When needed.
Yeah. And then
On
go away
speed dial.
when I need to have a breakdown.
Yeah.
Yes. So my current husband, he showed up pretty soon after Ryan died. I met him 2 months after. And I was at my sister's house at a little backyard taco night, and he was like following me around. And I was with my kids, and he was like asking me all these very kind of dating y questions. And it was just a surreal moment where, you relate with people of
Mm
the opposite
hmm.
sex
Mm
while you're married.
hmm.
And all of a sudden I was like, this is different. Like, I'm single. I just had this like the whole world turned on its
Yeah.
axis. And I was like, I am a single
Single.
woman. I'm a single woman. And this man is not talking to me like platonically.
Yeah.
It was really strange. And um, Solomon is very handsome, real dreamboat situation. So I was like, yes, great. This is gonna be the guy that I just make out with a few times and then like drop. Like I need this right now.
Did he
Very
know you were a
tall,
widow?
broad, dark, and handsome. He did. So he was
Okay.
forward on his end.
Okay.
Anyway, so I was like, my sister was game. She was like, yeah, just get that makeout sesh. And I was like, yeah. And then everyone else in my life that also knew him and knew his life story, were like, no, dude, do not, do not. Her husband just died, so that ended very fast. The music was starting for a second, and it was like, no. He was like called off of the widow hunt. He was like, they were like too soon. So he started dating somebody else, and that's good.
Dare
I
him.
I know, I know. How dare he date someone that doesn't have trauma and two mouths to feed?
Where is
Okay,
that girl now? We have some
so
jealousy issues of her.
rude. Yeah, no, I was like, oh, fine. He started dating someone very shortly after, and so then he was like weirdly in the back of my mind. Like I didn't know him at all. So different than Ryan, night and day different. But I was like, he was the first guy that made me realize. I don't know. I just couldn't get him out of my mind. He's dating this girl, and they're like long distance dating. And he became kind of like a joke when I would talk with my friends and be like, so is that guy, you think he's gonna drop that girl and I'll swoop in? I just kept making jokes. Okay. I was like, No, I was not in a healthy place. Like I said, I do think it was good
Love
we
this.
didn't get
I absolutely love this.
it was good that we didn't get together at that time because obviously it was not super healthy. He was just sort of like I would watch I would stalk him and he'd be going to Europe and doing all this fun stuff. And I was like, I want to go to Europe with this guy. I was ready to kind of escape my life. And so he ends up breaking up with her like a year later.
I feel like about time.
Yeah, and he actually like shows up at my house because he's an architect and he was working on projects at my house during this whole time. So he's dating another girl, he's working on my kitchen and then my bathroom, and we're just keeping it super profesh. I'm putting on makeup just in case, it's like off. Anyways, keeping it professional. But then one day he comes to my house after he breaks up and he stays for 4 hours and plays Play-Doh with my kids. And again, I was like, what is happening? Um, and I remember being like, I didn't want my kids involved. If this is what I think it is, I don't want my kids around. I wanted to hide like boyfriend from kids until boyfriend became fiance. But it was just kind of a weird start. So that was like the beginning. And then, it was actually a lot slower. So it started where I was like, yeah, but then the whole process of actually dating was so much slower than
Mhm.
falling in love the first time. And I think a lot of that for me had to do with kids because we could only date. I didn't really want them involved in the early days of our dating. So we were dating like after they went to bed. And you spend a lot of hours getting to know someone. And we were like 6 months into dating and these little cracks of our life. And we're like, why don't I feel like I know you deep enough to say I love you? Like, we're not there yet. And so it took longer. We actually got advice from my therapist. He's like, you need to go out of town with each other. You need to spend some long time without the kids to
Mhm.
figure this out. And so we did, and that was all it took to really fall in love. Yeah, it's complicated to hold because I still very much feel in love with Ryan. And then to all of a sudden be in love with somebody else, it feels like you're living in two universes at the same time. It's strange.
It's very yeah, I feel that even a little bit more now this week. So on the 19th, so Saturday is me and Colby's like wedding anniversary. And I
Oh,
feel like now that and we like never got to celebrate one in person, and now that I've like had another wedding, like now that I've been like married to Colin, it's like where I feel like even when we were just dating, it was still okay to, do you know what I mean? Like when I was just dating Colin, it was like these like anniversary moments or death anniversaries or wedding anniversaries. It was like you hadn't had that with someone else yet. And then now that I had, it's just like, it's this like inner
I know.
merry-go-round that is just so wild. And you can feel it. I don't know about you, but like this week I woke up yesterday and I was just like heavy. Like your
Mhm.
body knows and feels it, but at the same time, it's not like Colin's working, coming home, I'm living this like life with Colin, but then there's this heaviness inside too that I'm also living. It's
Yeah.
so weird.
It is weird because I remember thinking before, like I said, when I was looking at other people's hope filled Instagrams, I was like, I'm going to be sad forever. Ryan will be part of my story forever. I'm going to make my life about Ryan. And then it's like you have another person, and you're like, this affects them.
Mm-hmm.
How does it affect them? And it's a lot more complicated when there's another person on the other end of that. So
Mm-hmm.
navigating it because this is an alive person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of times the things that we're doing for our person are very much, it's when I'm doing things for Ryan, it feels like it really is something that I need. It's something that
Mm-hmm.
my kids need,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily something that Ryan needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Mm-hmm.
don't, that's an existential question of
Mm-hmm.
how these things affect him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized like, okay, so this has to be about what I need on certain days. And I do have to think about how it affects Saul and how it plays out. And so I've sort of learned to now Saul and I talk about Ryan all the time, but I've sort of learned to have those big days kind of siloed to like choose a few dates on the calendar. And I basically told Saul like I need these like I need 3 moments. I need his birthday to be a big Ryan fest with the boys. I need his death day to be just my own time. I always go back to Palm Springs and I have like 48 hours alone. I revisit like the places, I write, I cry. I just need that for me. And then also 1 week of the year, we all go, we actually just got back to Orcas Island with all of Ryan's family. And that's really for me and the kids. Just feel like we're still hearters. We're still connected, though our story like expands. Like I was like, this is what I need. Now that doesn't include like our wedding anniversary and all that. So I feel like I have struggled with the wedding one. Like how do I kind of have this moment. What do I need from this day? Some years
Because
I
had you we not married Ryan and Colby, we would have then not become widowed and then would have not then met like
yeah.
Saul and Colin. Like it's this like
Oh, I know. There's a whole other person. I had another baby. There's like a whole
yeah.
person that
Yeah,
wouldn't
we got to talk
exist.
about that because I
Yeah.
remember when I came down and we were recording for Vids for Woods, you kind of talked about that. You're like, now there's a whole nother life because kind of
Yeah.
a life lost, right? And navigating those emotions.
That's been a big thing for my youngest, actually, Rory, who's 7 now, which is weird. So he was 1 when Ryan died, and he's a very much a feeler, and he cries a lot about Ryan. And now his big thing that he says is he's trying to piece it all together is like he loves Reese so much. My
Mm-hmm.
third son, he loves Reese, and so he's just like, if Ryan didn't die, Reese wouldn't be here. He has said that so many times, and I just love how kids are so matter of fact and external, and they just say these sort of unspoken things.
Mm-hmm.
It's so complicated that I always say like the good things that happen don't happen because
Mm-hmm.
that like
Mm-hmm.
that thing didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to happen
Mm-hmm.
in
And it
order for
doesn't take
Reese to
away
be here.
that trauma or that
Yeah.
emotions or anything at
Oh,
all. It doesn't
yeah.
all of a sudden just wash that away because there's also now good.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it. It's not
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah.
But it's still we can still be like this is so good. This is like Reese is so good. My marriage right now
So
is
cute.
so beautiful. At the same time as this is terrible, like holding both of those.
Mm-hmm.
That's the great. Oh, that's the journey. Figuring out to hold both of those.
What would you tell what would you tell I feel like widows we kind of always are like very we tell each other how we feel, but what would you tell either someone's family or someone that is planning to date a widow? Like what would you tell, what
Oh,
advice would you
I
give,
love
like
that.
walking in being like this
I
is
feel
what.
like um someone that is thinking of dating a widow, I mean, it's like don't be afraid to bring up the person.
Mhm.
Like the widow loves talking about that
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
Um and then also kind of writing the big days on your
Mhm.
calendar and keeping note of that and being aware that the lead up to those days is often harder
Mhm.
and having grace for that person that
Mhm.
I've been kind of March is like
Yeah.
I need so much grace in March. It's not a good time for me. And so I think my husband is learning that, 3 years, 3 Marches in. Well, I guess 4 if you count when we were dating. We actually broke up our first March because I just couldn't. I know. So yeah, March is not a good time for me. And so I think as you learn that, I think it'd be nice knowing that
Yeah.
going in. If
Yeah.
Saul like knew that going in, like, okay, March is like put a big X over it.
Mhm.
Not gonna be myself because it's like the lead up to the death day. His birthday is the beginning of March, and then it's just one big lead up. And then after that, I actually feel kind of like lighter. I don't know
Yep.
about you. The rest
You
of
it's like a
April, I feel light.
relief.
Yeah.
It's like a yeah, I feel like Colin in particular, I mean, this year was different because normally I'm surrounded by all me and Colby's family and friends, but I'm in California and there's no one here, right? So it's just Colin. So there's no one here that knew Colby, no one that I can do the traditions with and the like anticipation leading up. And I just remember being like extra just on like high alert. I feel like I'm extra, maybe it's because like the suddenness, but I remember that week leading up being like, he works crazy hours. And I just remember he was in the office till like 10 or 11 p.m. that night. And I was like, can you just call so I can hear your voice before I try and fall asleep? Like it was like those type of things of like, I could tell that I was like, well, just obviously clearly struggling with. And I always do like April, kind of like your March, like I say March like 7th to April 7th. I also weirdly, I don't know about you, but April 6th and April 7th are quote unquote harder for me than obviously the day he died is always like the worst day. But I think for me, the 6th, like reliving those last moments and he was totally fine. And then the trauma of the 7th and rolling over to like what I rolled over to, and then,
Yeah.
COVID and not being allowed in. And those days are harder for me in that way. Then
Yeah.
obviously the 11th is hard and it's triggering. But yeah, the anticipation days leading up, I'm like, I need so much grace. I like, don't talk to me, or maybe
Yeah.
talk to me. I don't know. It's going to switch every minute. Like,
I always start getting it. I mean, really from his birthday, but like when it starts getting really heavy is when we left for California. Like when we got on the plane, which was March 26th.
mm-hmm.
So it's kind of it's my son, Reese, my little one, he was born on March 24th. And that complicates things a lot. So he's in the middle of it and I always feel so bad. I like this is happening. Your birthday happens. So not a great time for me. But I knew when I found out we
Yeah.
got pregnant, his due date was so close to Ryan's death day. And I was like, oh hell no. And so I didn't get induced, but I did like every form of home induction possible. I was like, this baby's coming early. He came 37 weeks and 6 days. He's healthy, so I don't know, but I don't know if I would. But I was like, I have to get this baby out early. Like, I cannot have this baby on April 1st and 2nd. So now it's like I got him out before at least the 26th when things start getting really hairy. But
Yeah.
whew, he came in right at the last second there.
It's so interesting because I feel like some people that like haven't experienced grief would probably like look at that and be like, "Oh, it's probably a sign from Ryan.
Mm,
It's so comforting." And you're like, "Oh, heck no. It's
I
so
know.
triggering and actually like
No, I know. A lot of people were like, because when they saw the due date, they were like, "That's gonna be so beautiful. It's gonna be like new birth out of." And I was like, that means that every one of his birthdays, I'm gonna want to go away and be alone in Palm Springs and break down. Like that's not good for me. So yeah, I didn't plan the timing of getting pregnant. Actually, I didn't really think that through.
so a tip to any widows and widowers
Yeah.
listening to this.
Look at a calendar, okay? Track your cycle. Look at the
Like,
calendar. 40 weeks, okay? From your last missed period. Yeah,
oh,
not smart.
yeah.
Not smart.
Yeah, I yeah, that'd be rough. But talking about our like dark kind of humor and how we make jokes
Yeah.
of all this, I have such like morbid humor, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
Which led you to start Vids for Wids, which I absolutely love. Like when I see some of them, I'm like, oh heck yeah. Um they're like validating and funny, but they make you laugh and they're so true. So kind of yeah, what obviously Ryan's passing made you want to start that, but what kind of led up to all that?
Yeah. So, I make videos for a living and I was like, you want to create something from all the crap
Yeah.
in your life. And part of me was everything that I was taking in online after Ryan died was very, I would say, like sentimental
Mhm.
and or just really sad. And I
Mhm.
was like, I'm not just sad, right? Like
Mhm.
I think I really when I talk with other widows, there is sort of like we're getting sad, we're talking about tough things, and then all of a sudden we're joking, and
Hmm.
it's like this ping pong. And so I was like, oh, I want to represent that tone a little bit. And so that's one thing that inspired Vids for Wids. The other thing is like we've already talked about. The only thing that was actually helpful was talking with other widows.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm like, the more stories of other widows telling their story that's online, the better. So I'm just like, I want to hear all the answers to all the questions, all the nitty gritty, and all the dark thoughts and the weird humor. And so the birth of Vitzer Wits is just trying to get other widows to tell their stories to help other widows, especially in that first year when you just
Yeah.
need to hear, oh, I'm not a weirdo. Like you feel like a freak because for your most people's community
Hmm.
there's not usually another
All
widow
eyes are
in
on
your
you.
circle. Yeah. So you
Hmm.
feel like, oh, I'm the only one, so
Hmm.
it is helpful to have other people's stories and to feel like, oh no, I'm not that special. Like we're everywhere. There's widows everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that is why I started Fitzroy's, and it's
Yeah.
been really fun.
It is so funny. Yeah, down to like the lasagnas and like
Yeah,
have
yeah,
people
the
bring
castles.
casseroles and ugh. Yeah, it's so accurate. I absolutely like love all the videos that you
Oh,
do.
thank
That you
you.
do such a good job with it all. Um, Speaking again on that, you are writing a book slash wrote a book.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the book is called You're So Strong. So, as we all know, we hear that one a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And
Love it.
it actually comes out. I did not choose the day. It's coming out March 24th, which is Reese's birthday. It's coming out at not a great time for me, but they chose it and we're just gonna ride those grief waves. I'll probably will be crying in interviews when the book comes out. But it's yeah, gonna be March 24th. I think it'll go in pre-sale in the fall so people can
Amazing.
pre-order it. But yeah, it's You're So Strong, and it's called On Grief. The subtitle is On Grief and Letting Go of My Favorite Compliment. So it's sort of
Yes.
like the journey of feeling like I need to be so strong and then learning to like let that go because it's not really helpful.
No, it's not. I feel
No.
like, yeah, when people say comments like that, you're like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I think for me at the time I was like, okay, yeah, I feel like I didn't do anything and people were saying
Yeah,
I was so strong, right? I all I had to do was like show up and they were like, you are the strongest person I know. And so I feel like I was like, okay, so this is what you guys need me to be. I'm getting like a read of the
that's
room.
true. Yeah,
And
that's
so
actually a
I
good
was
way to
like,
put it.
yeah, so I was like, all right, this is what everyone needs me to be. I'm gonna be so strong for everybody. And
Hmm.
that didn't really go well for me. So it's kind of like
Yeah, you
the
put on
journey of
this
learning that.
like, yeah, strong to be strong for them. But for me, when the people said that, I was like, but I don't feel strong. Like, I don't feel like I'm like nailing this like
Yeah.
experience. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. um,
Yeah, I think a lot of times people say because they need to know that if it happened to them, they would be like strong. So they're like,
that's such a good point.
you're so strong, right? You're gonna be okay, right? You're like I just feel
Hmm.
like they're seeing a potential future them, and they need to know that they got out of bed in the morning. I don't know. That's how it felt for me.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's very true. Well, looking back on, okay, the last question here. Looking back from Brian first passing to now, what would you go back and tell yourself? Like you are more than, or what would you tell yourself? What would you tell day
Mm,
one widow
it's a
Leslie?
tough question. I would be so easy on myself. I just feel like I would be like, take it one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Stay in bed if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say don't start working so soon because I kind of just jumped back into everything
Mm-hmm.
and like stopped trying so hard. I just feel like I really felt like I had to do everything so right in grief. So I think I would go back and tell myself to take it easy. I don't know why I was putting all that extra pressure on myself. I think I just maybe it had to be worth it. It had to have meaning. It had to like it couldn't have been random. And so I just wish that yeah, I'd be like, take it easy, Leslie. Take a nap.
Yeah,
Take a nap, girl.
seriously. You deserve a nap. No,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more on that. But seriously, I remember that first post and I remember exactly laying in bed and it gave me a lot of hope. So thank you for sharing your story and still sharing your story. And I'm sorry that we're part of this crappy sisterhood together, but super lucky to have you in it.
Thank you for this and helping other widows tell your story through this and having me. I wish we were in the same town so we could actually hang.
Now,
I gotta
I
get
think we're
down there.
like, well,
2 hour flight?
your sister's still in LA, right? That's like
Yeah,
four
yeah.
and a half hour drive from SF.
Oh, you're in San Francisco.
Yeah, we're outside of San
Oh,
Francisco.
okay. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I will get there. We'll
I
figure it
know.
out.
I'll come back up. We can do some more
Perfect.
vids for Woods videos.
Yes, please.
I know Reese was like fresh, like newborn when I met him.
I know because in that video, this is gonna be a slightly inappropriate, but my boobs are huge. Because I have nothing. I have nothing. But when I'm breastfeeding, so like I remember watching, like rewatching that before this, and I was like, wow, girl, busting out of the tops.
Kid number 4 on the way.
Just yeah. TMI, but yeah. He was very new. I think he was like 2 months old.
Yeah.
So whoa.
So cute. So cute. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Lucky,
you, Ed.
lucky to know ya. Ryan and
Yes.
Colbert probably up there in heaven partying pretty hard for us.
They better be. They better be.
They better be pretty funny up there together.
Yeah. Cracking jokes.
Yeah.